Hi, my name is Sammy. I'd like to tell you about my experience with living with autism, dyspraxia, heart failure, dilated cardiomyopathy. When I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which is a high-functioning form of autism. When I was 20 years old, I was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy and heart failure. My experience with autism has been good and bad, unfortunately, but I am just taking things day by day. For me, loud noises are agonizingly painful. Noises that wouldn't bother most people are painful to me, and lights that wouldn't bother most people also are painful to me. I don't like to be touched by people because if you touch me unexpectedly, it scares me because some people with autism get startled if they're touched without warning. Like, for example, a tap on the shoulder will startle me if you don't let me know you're going to tap me on my shoulder. For my experience with dyspraxia, I have poor coordination and I have poor balance, and unfortunately, that's a part of me having dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is a movement disability. In other words, it affects ease of movement. So things that would be simple for most people, such as tying my shoes, tying your shoes, are significantly difficult for me to do because of my poor coordination. I also am more likely to fall than most people because of my poor balance, and again, that goes back to dyspraxia. Because of my autism, I take people literally. I don't, and also because of my autism, I usually understand what people say, but I don't always understand what people say to me. I usually do, but don't always do. And for my experience with heart failure, on October 23rd, 2017, I went to the hospital for just a doctor's checkup to see what was going on because I had shortness of breath and I had shortness of breath, which I didn't even know anything about heart failure, but it turns out the shortness of breath was because of heart failure. My dad was like, you need to lose weight because we were at the zoo and I was going up a hill and I was really sweaty, but no one else that I was with was sweaty. And he said, oh, you need to lose weight. Turns out that's not what it was my heart. It turns out I was in heart failure, and I had been in heart failure for possibly a year before anyone knew. I'm because of my dilated cardiomyopathy and my heart failure, I'm on a cardiac diet, which means that I can't have food that's high in sodium. If I have food that's high in sodium, it causes me to have edema. Edema is a medical term for swelling. I have to be a lot more careful about what I eat than most people because of the cardiac diet. That way I won't have edema from eating sodium because eating sodium causes me to have edema. And on October 23rd, 2017, um, at the doctor's appointment, um, the doctor did a test called BMP, which stands for, I forget what it stands for, but a BMP test. And what it does is that it's a test. It's a test that shows that there's BMP in your blood. And what BMP does is that if your heart's stressed out, the heart releases BMP into the bloodstream and to help it, so the BMP can help the heart out. If the BMP levels are high, that means you certainly have heart failure. And unfortunately, my BMP levels were off the charts, and then my doctor had a stricken look on her face. And she told me to get a chest x-ray, and so I did. And it turns out there's a boatload of fluid in my lungs, which was causing the shortness of breath and the sweating that I mentioned earlier. And it turns out that my heart was enlarged. So basically, it's dilated cardiomyopathy. So basically, dilated cardiomyopathy. Cardio stands for heart, myo stands for muscle, and pathy stands for disease. Because pathy is the Latin word for disease. So dilated cardiomyopathy is disease of the heart muscle. So basically, heart disease of the heart muscle. And because of dilated cardiomyopathy, my heart's way bigger than it should be, and that's where the dilated part comes in, because the heart dilates because it can't. It's trying to keep up with its workload, and it can't, and so it dilates. And then after the chest x-ray, I got admitted to the hospital for heart failure, and I had to have a nasal cannula to help me breathe, because I could barely breathe. I had so much fluid in my lungs I could barely breathe on my own, so I had to have a nasal cannula put in my nose just to help me breathe. Also, because my autism, loud sounds scare me, and a lot of the time, if there's a loud sound, I will run away from where I am because it scares me. And I might go hide somewhere until I feel safe again. Also, there's videos on YouTube if you want to watch them about what dilated cardiomyopathy and heart failure is. And there's videos about what autism is. The best channels for autism is Following Autism, Our Awesome Life, the National Autistic Society. So now my new autism diagnosis is autism spectrum disorder level 2, because Asperger's syndrome isn't a diagnosis anymore because of the DSM-5.